Look at the tip of your finger right now. Imagine something the size of a grain of salt. Now imagine hundreds of them crawling deep inside your cat's ear canal, biting, feeding, laying eggs, in the warm dark where your cat can't reach and can't see. And that dark, crumbly coffee ground stuff you keep wiping out and calling dirt? That isn't dirt. Those are their droppings. That's the mess they leave behind. Black, crusty, alive with them. So here's the question I want you to sit with for the next few minutes, because 99 out of 100 owners get it wrong. That black stuff in your cat's ears. Is it just dirt your cat missed while grooming? Or is it the single most miserable, itchy, sleep-stealing thing that can happen to a house cat? Because those two things look almost identical from across the room. And telling them apart is the whole difference between a 5-minute cleaning and weeks of your cat scratching itself bloody. You're not imagining it, by the way. If you've looked in your cat's ear and thought, that doesn't look right, that's darker and crustier than it should be, and something in your gut said, pay attention. Your gut is right. Stay with me, because I'm going to show you exactly how to tell the difference. And it's simpler than you think. I'm Dr. Aurelio. I'm the old-school cat vet, the kind who's had a cat's ear an inch from my nose more times than I can count. And I'm going to be straight with you, folks. Ear mites are one of the most common things I see and one of the most misread. Owners come in apologizing. Doc, I keep cleaning his ears and the dirt just comes back. And I have to tell them, gently, that they've been wiping up after a colony of living creatures this whole time. It was never going to stop coming back. You can't clean out an infestation with a cotton swab. You can only feed it more chances to spread. So let's clear up the confusion right now, because this is the payoff, and I'm not going to make you wait for it. Normal earwax in a healthy cat is light. Think pale yellow, light brown, a little waxy shine to it, and there's not much of it. A healthy cat grooms, and the ear mostly takes care of itself. You might see a faint smudge when you glance inside. That's fine. That's normal. That's a cat being a cat. Ear mites are the opposite in every way. The debris is dark, not light brown, dark brown to almost black. And it's dry and crumbly, exactly like coffee grounds or ground black pepper packed down into the ear canal. There's a lot of it, and it comes back fast no matter how much you wipe. That's your first tell. Color and texture. Light and waxy is probably just wax. Dark, dry, and crumbly like coffee grounds, that's the signature of mites. And now you know it. And here's the second tell, the one that seals it. The itch. Because a cat with normal wax doesn't care about its ears at all. A cat with ear mites is tormented. Absolutely tormented. And once I describe what that itch actually is, you will never look at your cat scratching its ear the same way again. Picture the inside of the ear canal. Its thin skin over a tender surface, packed with nerve endings, folded and curved so nothing that gets in there can easily get out. Now put a colony of mites in that space. They don't just sit there, they crawl, constantly, across skin that has almost no protection. They pierce the surface to feed. Their movement, their bites, their waste, all of it sets off an allergic reaction that turns the whole canal raw and inflamed and screaming for relief. Try to imagine it for a second. That deep, maddening itch you get inside your ear that you cannot reach, no matter how you twist your finger. Now imagine it never, ever stops. Not for a meal, not for sleep, not for a single minute of the day. That is what your cat is living with. That's why she's tilting her head sideways. That's why she's shaking her head so hard you hear the flap slapping against her skull from across the room. That's why she digs at that ear with her back claws, like she's trying to tear the itch out. That's not your cat being dramatic. That's suffering. And the cat is the best animal in the whole world at hiding suffering, which is exactly why so many owners miss it, because the cat only lets it show when it can't hold it in anymore. When you finally see the head shaking and the frantic scratching, understand this. It's been bad for a while. The cat just hit the point where it couldn't be hidden. Now let me tell you where this goes if nobody catches it, because the itch is only the beginning. And I need you to hear this part, folks, because this is where a nuisance turns into a real injury. When a cat scratches that hard, that often, with claws that sharp, at thin skin that's already raw, things start to break. The skin at the base of the ear gets scraped open. Now you've got little wounds, and those wounds sit right next to a canal full of mites and filth. That's an open door, and what walks through that door is the next problem. Because the ear canal, once it's inflamed and damaged and full of debris, stops being a healthy place. A healthy ear stays dry and balanced, and the yeast and bacteria that naturally live there stay in check. But flood it with mite waste, tear up the skin, trap all that moisture, and you've built the perfect swamp. Yeast blooms, bacteria multiply. Now the cat doesn't just have mites. She has a secondary infection layered on top, and this is the part that catches owners off guard. Here's how you'll know it turned. The smell. A healthy ear doesn't smell like much. An infected ear has an odor, sometimes sweet and musty, sometimes sharp and foul, and once you've smelled it, you don't forget it. You might also see the debris change, going from that dry coffee ground crumble to something wetter, gooier, sometimes yellowish or greenish. And the ear gets hot and red and swollen, and it hurts to the touch, so your cat pulls away hard the second you go near it. When you see that, understand the situation has changed. You're not dealing with a simple itch anymore. You're dealing with an infection that has taken hold, and that needs a veterinarian. But there's one more thing, and this is the one that lands cats on my table needing surgery. It's called an oral hematoma, and I want you to really understand what it is, because it looks alarming and it comes on fast. When a cat shakes its head that violently, over and over, for days, one of the tiny blood vessels inside the ear flap can rupture. And when it breaks, blood pools between the layers of the ear flap and the whole flap swells up like a little balloon. Puffy, thick, sometimes hot, and it's tender. Owners panic when they see it, and I understand why. One day the ear looks normal, the next it's swollen up like a pillow. And here's the part I need you to really hear. That balloon didn't come from an injury on the outside. It came from the itch on the inside. The mites drove the scratching drove the head shaking, and the head shaking burst the vessel. It's all one chain, and an oral hematoma very often needs a vet to drain it, sometimes to stitch it, and if it heals wrong, the ear can crumple and scar into what people call cauliflower ear for the rest of the cat's life. So follow the chain with me, because this is the whole story in one breath. It starts as something you dismissed as dirt. It becomes a colony of mites. The mites cause a torment of itching. The itching causes frantic scratching and head shaking. The scratching opens wounds and invites yeast and bacteria, and it bursts a vessel and swells the ear into a hematoma. Every step of that chain started with the black stuff you thought was nothing. That's why I lose my mind a little when someone tells me it's just dirt. It's never just dirt. Now, let's talk about why the things most people try at home don't work, because I know exactly what you've been doing, and I want to save you from making it worse. The cotton swab, the Q-tip. I know. It feels like the obvious tool. You see the gunk, you want to reach in and get it. Please don't. Here's the problem. The cat's ear canal isn't a straight tube like ours. It bends. It has an L shape to it. So when you push a swab down in there, you're not scooping the debris out. You're packing it down. You're shoving all that mite waste and crumbly filth deeper, past the bend, down toward the eardrum where you can't see it and can't reach it. You clear the little bit at the top, so it looks better, and you've compressed the real problem into the one part of the ear you should never be pushing on. And on top of that, if the cat jerks, and cats jerk, you can damage the eardrum itself. So the swab makes the surface look cleaner while making the actual situation worse. That's the worst kind of fix. And then there's the drops from the pet store shelf, the over-the-counter ear stuff. Now, I'm not going to tell you they never do anything. But here's why they so often fail. And it comes down to the life cycle of the mite. A mite lays eggs. Those eggs sit in the ear canal. And a lot of ear treatments only kill the adults crawling around. They don't touch the eggs. So you treat, the adults die, you think it worked, you stop. And then the eggs hatch. A whole new generation crawls out into that same warm canal, and within days you're right back where you started, wondering why the black stuff came back again. Unless a treatment covers the entire life cycle, unless it keeps working long enough to catch every egg as it hatches, you're not clearing the infestation. You're just knocking it back for a week or two. That's why owners tell me they've treated the same cat 4, 5, 6 times, and it never fully goes away. And this is exactly where the vet-prescribed treatments are just built different. There are prescription products designed specifically to break the mite life cycle. Some of them applied right to the skin, absorbed into the body, working over a stretch of time that outlasts every egg in that ear. That's the whole point of a systemic approach. It doesn't just clean the surface. It doesn't just kill what's crawling today. It stays in the fight long enough to end the whole colony, eggs and all. That's the difference between a cat that's cured and a cat that's miserable again by the end of the month. I'm not going to name a product and I'm not going to give you a dose, and here's why. The right treatment depends on your cat's age, your cat's weight, whether there's already a secondary infection brewing, and whether those eardrums are still intact, because some things you'd never put in an ear with a damaged eardrum. So for the exact product and the exact amount, ask your veterinarian the right treatment for your cat's weight and health. That's not me passing you off. That's me keeping your cat safe, because the wrong thing in a damaged ear does real harm. Now let me answer the question I can already hear you asking. Doc, if it's just an itch, do I really need to rush? Fair question. So let me draw the line for you clearly. This is not usually a middle-of-the-night, run-out-the-door emergency, okay? Ear mites are miserable, but they're not going to take your cat's life tonight. You can wait for morning and book an appointment, and that's the right move for most cases. Get it seen, get it treated, get your cat relief. But here's where you don't wait. If the ear flap has ballooned up swollen, that's the hematoma, get that seen quickly. If the ear is hot and red and stinking, and your cat cries or pulls away hard when you go near it, that's a painful infection that's taken hold. Don't sit on that. And if your cat suddenly seems off balance, tilting its head hard to one side and stumbling, that can mean the trouble has reached deeper into the ear, and that needs a vet promptly. Short version. The itch alone can wait for a normal appointment. Swelling, stink, real pain, or a wobbly off-balance cat, those move to the front of the line. And there's one more thing I have to tell you, because it changes what you do at home. Ear mites are contagious between animals, wildly contagious. They spread by contact, so if you've got more than one cat or a dog in the house, and one has mites, assume the others have been exposed. This is one of the most common reasons a single cat treatment fails, by the way. You treat the one cat, and it gets reinfested from the buddy sleeping next to it who was never treated. So when you talk to your vet, tell them about every animal in the house. Treating the whole household at once is very often the only way to actually end it. So let's come back around to where we started, that black, crusty, coffee ground stuff in your cat's ear. You know now that it's very often not dirt at all. You know the two tells, the dark, dry crumble and the tormented itching. You know the chain it can lead to, the raw skin, the secondary infection, the ballooned ear. You know why the swab makes it worse and why the shelf drops so often fail. And you know the line between wait for morning and get seen now. And if you've been wiping that ear for weeks thinking you were just behind on grooming, I don't want you carrying any guilt over it. You didn't know. It looks exactly like dirt, that's the whole trap of it, and nobody ever taught you the difference until right now. What matters isn't the weeks you missed. What matters is that from today you know how to look, you know what you're looking at, and you know when it's time to hand it to someone with the tools to end it for good. Do your best with what you've got, folks. That's how the old-timers took care of their animals, one careful look at a time, and that's how it's still done in every home that loves a cat. So do me a favor. Tonight, gently lift that ear flap and take a real look. And tell me down in the comments, when you looked, what did you see? Light and waxy, or dark like coffee grounds? I read these and I'll tell you straight whether it sounds like something you can watch or something that needs a call in the morning.